Another Washington journalist, the late Meg Greenfield, covered the city for a long time and knew how it worked. She got the connection between money and politics in ways that some reporters never do. Trying to rid politics of money, she wrote, is kin to the quest for a squirrel-proof bird feeder. No matter how clever and ingenious the design, the squirrels are always one mouthful ahead of you. Those squirrels came to mind last week when we reported on the bailout of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. The two mortgage giants survived scandal and crisis over the years by spending nearly $200 million on lobbying and campaign contributions. We posted on our website a story by Politico's Lisa Lair on how insiders helped Fannie and Freddie stave off scrutiny and avoid taxes even as their top executives pulled down multi-million-dollar paychecks. The New York Times also reported bluntly that their rapid expansion was at least in part the result of artful lobbying. What a lovely term, artful lobbying. In other words, a better bird feeder built by the squirrels themselves. For more on money and politics, let's go now to a man who saw firsthand how the city's money chase has crippled and corrupted Washington. His name is Ernest Fritz Hollings, and he spent 38 years in the United States Senate, a long and colorful run during which he made a name for himself as a passionate advocate for the hungry, a champion of balanced budgets, and a fighter for jobs in the textile industry. He called it quits 4 years ago and went home to South Carolina. But he was back in town recently to see old friends and sign his new book, Making Government Work. I talked with Fritz Hollings at a Senate office building on Capitol Hill just before his book party. Why did you write this book now?
I wrote the book because I could see what was wrong. I was raising money. I wasn't running for re-election.
As a senator in your last term?
As a senator the last 2 or 3 years, that's all I was doing, was raising money and working for the campaign and for the party. The hardest working people in the world are the congressmen and senators. We work from early morning till late at night and all weekend and everything else, but we're working now not for the country, but for the campaign.
What do you mean?
All the time is fundraisers. All the time it's money, 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 money. In 1998, 10 years ago, I ran and I had to raise $8.5 million. The record is there. $8.5 million is $30,000 a week, every week for 6 years, each and every week for 6 years. Old Dick Russell of Georgia, he said, now senators given a 6-year term rather than a 2-year term. He's given 6 years, the first 2 years to be a statesman, then the second 2 years to be a politician, his last 2 years a demagogue. we use all 6 years to raise money. That's why I wrote the book, to try to get the government off its fanny and cut out all the politics and let's work for the country.
What do you mean it's not working? You say you can't get anything done in Washington anymore. What's not getting done?
Legislation, anything meaningful. They fill up the tree, both sides. It's nothing wrong with Harry Reid or Mitch McConnell. They're darn good leaders, and they're doing what the senators want done. And they're all smart senators, and they're all responsible people. But they're playing the game, and the media hadn't exposed. That's why I wrote it. I'm trying to expose.
The game? What's the game?
The game is money. I got to get the money. The heck with constituents. I got to get contributors. I've talked to the senators. You ask them. They know they're not getting anything done. And they're grown men and they're conscientious women, everything else. They're outstanding. But they know that all they're doing is on a money treadmill. That's all it is.
You're right. When I first came to the Senate 40 years ago, Senator Mansfield, he was the majority leader then,
yes, sir,
had a vote every Monday morning to get a quorum. And we worked until 5 o'clock on Friday every
That's
week.
right. We didn't go home on the weekends. We tried to get out Thursday afternoon or night or at least early Friday morning to go to the West Coast for fundraisers. That's why Hollywood and that's why Wall Street has got that much influence. I'm not going to South Carolina. They got no money for a Democrat. I have to travel all over the country.
Years ago, you write, on Washington's birthday, a freshman senator would read the farewell address at 12 o'clock noon, and then we'd have votes in the afternoon.
Now we've merged Lincoln's birthday with Washington's birthday and take 10 days off in February for fundraising. We have St. Patrick's Day, 10-day break for fundraising. Easter, Memorial Day, 4th of July, the month of August, Labor Day, Yom Kippur, and Columbus Day. That's 10 days gone. And October, September, October, fundraise. Everything is attuned for the campaign, the hell with the country.
A constant, permanent campaign.
That's exactly what it is.
Commercial television is the big winner in this because that's where so much of the money goes.
Oh, that's right. The rich have got all the speech they want. The poor have got lockjaw. He can't articulate out onto the television. And
the poor can't. They have no voice.
Yeah, and that's the trouble. They tell you don't go to waste time and don't go see people and everything. Get on television and get a little tricky television and everything else like that. So all these artists have got all kind of different ways and different things like that to bring up and tricks to play.
The clear message is money has a stranglehold on our democracy.
You've got to untie that money knot, and then the government will begin to work.
So you conclude, therefore, if we limit the money, Congress will have time to work for the country rather than
the campaign. That's exactly right. They can talk to each other. They can deliberate. You fill up the tree with amendments. The leaders know. The legislation is made down on K Street. They tell you when to vote, when they got the votes. Then either leader brings it up. He knows where it's going, and it's not going anywhere, but he's going to get a vote to make them embarrassed about immigration or about energy or about subprime mortgages. The votes are made for the campaign. It's not to get anything done. Don't bar humbug. Forget about that, boy. They're not doing anything up here. And the senators and congressmen know it.
What do you make of the fact, as you point out in your book, 3 days before the first presidential primary in Iowa, the New York Times listed the positions of all the candidates on 8 important issues, not one of them on trade or outsourcing of jobs?
That's right. And they came where we had in South Carolina, since President George W. Bush has been in, we've lost 94,500 manufacturing, a net loss. We're getting some more jobs in BMW and Spartanburg, but a net loss, and they never mentioned it in the early Democratic primary.
Why?
Because they got to get the money.
And who gives them the money?
Wall Street, the banks, and business.
Yeah, you say presidents negotiate trade agreements not to open markets, but to protect corporate America's foreign investment. That's how you see it.
That's exactly. Well, I know it. I mean, look at the Congress. Under Article 1, Section 8, the Congress shall regulate, not free. Congress will regulate trade, both domestic and foreign.
And you say in your book the Congress is not doing that.
They can't do it because they got to get the money. You put in a trade bill, and down on your head comes the Wall Street Journal and the big banks and the Business Roundtable and the National Chamber of Commerce and the National Association of Manufacturers are not for domestic, they're for Chinese and Indian manufacture. Even the National Chamber of Commerce is not worried about Main Street, Peoria, Illinois, Main Street, Shanghai. You see, Henry Ford built up the middle class along with organized labor. He said, I want the fellow making the car to be able to buy the car. So he doubled the minimum wage. He put in health care and retirement cost and everything else of that kind, benefits. And so we had a good working relationship between labor and now all of these trade agreements are for the investors to protect their investment in China and India, but forget about labor.